I am going to show you a new typography trick. So today we're going to talk about the effects panel in Photopea or Photoshop. It's located right here on the layers panel in Photoshop. It says FX. In Photopea, it says EFF, and this creates a layer style to your object. All right, so you can do this with type, you can do it with shapes, you can do it with brushes, and it just adds some really cool effects. So I'm just going to type a word, and I'm going to change my font really quick just to something different. I don't know, just something different. Yeah, I'm not digging that one. All right, we'll use this one. Okay, so what I'm going to do after I have my object or my type or my whatever on my page, I'm going to click on the EFF or the layer style button, and it will bring up this option. So I'm going to go to blending options, and it's going to bring up this pop-up dialog, and I've got all of these choices here. Okay, so the only way you're going to learn what any of these do is by clicking the buttons. Okay, so just go through and let's see, click on the button, see what happens. This adds a layer style. If I click on the word drop shadow, after I've checked the box, I can adjust how the layer style is affected. I can change the distance, change the spread, change the size, change how blurry, how clear, change the blend mode of that, what that looks like, change the color of the drop shadow. If I wanted it red, I don't know why it would be red, but maybe a red light would be shining on it. And then I can add all of these other options as well. So if I turn this off, so if I add a gradient overlay, this does the overlay on the word itself. So it'd be like changing the color or adding a gradient overlay over here on the toolbar, but we're adding a style effect rather than changing the actual word. So this is actually a non-destructive edit, right? So it adds a layer on top that can be edited. We have a pattern overlay. We can change the pattern. In Photopea and Photoshop, there are some preloaded patterns here. Takes a minute to load the first time you open it up. You can also install patterns into Photopea. That we'll get into talking about that later. But you can adjust how the pattern looks with that. You can change the color this way. Again, it's a non-destructive edit. So let me show you what it looks like. Let me just add a drop shadow. Okay, so oops. So I'm going to hit OK. And what it did, it put this little pop out right here. So down here, these are all the effects that I added. I can turn these on and off just by clicking on the eyeball. So if I decide I don't want to use something or I want to see what it looks like with or without something that I've added, I just click on the eyeball. If I want to delete one of these, I would just click and drag it to this trash can right here, and it would delete that effect. So right now I have the gradient overlay turned off. I decided I don't want to use that. I'll just drag it to the trash, and now I have these three, the color, pattern. Actually, I don't need the pattern because I have a color. So now I just have the color overlay and the drop shadow. All right, so let me show you what happens when I use it on a shape. So the same thing is going to happen. Let's use the star. Okay, so if I want to change the color of my star, and then I'm going to add an effect or a layer style. I'm going to go to, and you can always click on here and it'll bring up the blending option panel as well. I'm just going to do it this way. So I'm going to click here, go to drop shadow, change the color to black or gray, change the distance a little bit, change the spread, how wide it is. Okay, so you can do some really cool effects. So, and again, like I said, the only way you can add a stroke here rather than adding a stroke up here. Again, non-destructive edit. It's easier to turn off and on. Turn off and on when you are on your layer panel. Okay, so gradient overlay. So we'll talk about gradients and how to change those, but this is where you would find the gradient overlay. There are some options if you drop down these menus. So the only way to figure out what these tools do is to just mess around with them and experiment. Okay, that is the only way you are going to learn. And I can give you specific numbers to put in here, but every project you do is going to be different. Something that you may have in your mind might not be the same thing that I have in my mind. So all of these numbers are just going to depend on what you are actually going for in your design. Okay, but this is a really cool tool to try out. You can use it with, again, text, objects, photographs. If you wanted to add a frame around an image, you could do that. Let me try that really quick. I'm just going to pop a picture in here and close this. I'm going to hide these other ones. All right, so I'm going to resize this really quick so we can kind of see it, what happens around the edges of it. So with a layer style, I can add a border. I can add a bevel. I can make it like round around the edges. You can't really see it right now, but it is happening. And because it's got that bounding box around the edge of it, so I can add a stroke if I wanted to. I can change where the stroke falls on the image. I can change the color of the stroke. And that's actually not what I was looking for. My computer is trying to reboot. So yeah, so just mess around with these effects and layer styles and see what kind of cool effects you could come up with.